All right. Hi there. So welcome to our 1.4, and also it will include our 1.5 learning targets. So this first part is going to be 1.4 learning target, measure and classify angles. So you will want to get out your 1.4 notes just to have a visual of a lot of the terms, and also it just helps in case you're forgetting how to do something. So I'm going to walk you through a lot of these and help you a little bit. And if you need to pause at any point, go ahead and do so. If you need to rewatch, that's also a great idea. Okay, so we are on 13. If the measure of BOD. So I'm going to be using highlighters. You should probably have something like that too, which I gave you, or colored pens. But just so we know what we're talking about. So this measure here, BOD, I'm going to make sure we know it's this whole entire one. And that whole measure, you know, I like to use this so we can tell, is 86. So the whole entire thing is 86. Okay, it's kind of hard to tell, but make sure you write it so you can see it. And then the measure, that says measure of BOC. So again, I'm going to highlight BOC. That's the inside one. It tells us that one is 46. So we have the whole entire one and then a little piece of one. It says, then what is the measure of COD? So it wants this other piece here, the smaller piece. This is the question mark. So you should know what to do when you have the whole entire measure and one little piece, how we find this other one. Okay, 14. Which does not name the angle to the right? So remember, we talked about when we name an angle, we can use the vertex, which is the middle point. And we can also use points on there, but just a reminder, this vertex needs to be in the middle or by itself. So that should help. Which one of these is not the correct way to name it? All right, so for 15, we are looking at given BAD. So as you can see, there's no drawing here. So we're going to work together to do the drawing. We've done a lot of sketching on our own. So I just like to take the edge of a paper and we're sketching. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I want to make sure that we sketch it so we can know what to do here. So BAD and a third ray. So this is common, what we've seen in a lot of practice when we have a actual full angle and then there's a ray in the middle. So for this one, I'm just going to sketch. I have the back of my sticky notes. A line and then another line, and it doesn't matter like how straight or not it is. So here is the whole entire thing. Remember, I'm going to call that B, and then A, and then D, and then the ray, there's a middle ray of some sort, AC, that's the middle one. So that's how we sketch this. We've done a lot of practice this way. Our notes have it that way. I like to sketch it just so I can label things. So if it says that part there, that's just how we set it up. So if the measure of BAD is 24, so let's look for BAD. BAD is 24. So this whole thing is 24. Okay, I labeled that. And it says the measure, now we have of the measure of BAC. So I'm going to look at BAC. BAC, that's right there, is x squared minus 7x. We know right away this is going to be one where we factor because we have the x squared, but we're just labeling right now. That's why the picture helps. And then it also says the measure of CAD. That's going to be the last measure in there. So that one's right here, CAD. That's the inside one. That one here is 2x, or 2 times x. Then what is the measure of CAD? AD. So basically, we're going to have to solve for x and then plug the correct once we factor, we have to pick the correct x value. So once we have the correct x, we're going to plug it back into this CAD, which is 2x, to find the final answer. So we know right away, even before I start taking this, I know we're not having negative degrees. So I'm going to get rid of A because that doesn't even make any sense. All right, so now remember, if we have a total, when we set this up, we have a total here. We're going to set everything equal to a total. We're adding it together. So we know that this side plus this side equals the total. We always have that. So I'm just going to start with x squared, that's one of the sides, minus 7x plus 2x, that equals our 24. We know this, okay? You add them together. So the next part we've practiced a lot on because we had it in the first 3 sections of this unit, factoring. When we see an x squared, we have to automatically move everything to one side and use that 0 property, so there's nothing over there. Before I move stuff, I'm going to want to combine like terms though. So I have a negative 7x and a positive 2x. So helping you a little bit with this, we know we have x squared and then negative 7 plus 2, so that's going to be negative 5x. And then when we take this over, we add or subtract it. Since it's a positive, we're going to subtract it. Minus 24, and that's going to equal, again, our 0 property. So you are going to factor now. We know we have this and this. And we know when we factor over here, we have to pick something that when you multiply it, it equals negative 24. And then when you add it together, it equals a negative 5. We also know when there's 2 negatives, we're going to have an x plus and an x minus. We're just going to see what numbers go in there. So just helping you out a little bit, you're going to have to do the rest on your own, but picking out the factors. Remember, we just take the number, this negative 24, and I just start dividing. So I go divided by negative 1, divided by positive 1, divided by negative 2. Divided by positive 2. So that's how we check some of the factors when we don't know our multiplication facts, which is totally fine. So I'm going to put, this is our number, is our negative 24 up here, and we know that when we add these factors together, we are looking, I'm going to put add here, to get a negative 5. So if I start with 1 and negative 24, there's no way to add those together. So I know that's not it. So negative 1 and positive 24, those wouldn't be it. Let's go to 2. Negative 24 divided by 2, that would be a negative 12. Or we would have a negative 2 and a positive 12. Again, there's no way to add those and get a negative 5. Let's go to 3. If I divide by 3, 24 divided by 3 is 8. Ooh, there is a way. I notice when I add or subtract these, I will get 5. We just have to figure out, is it a positive 3 and a negative 8? So I'll check on my calculator. 3 plus negative 8, and that one actually gives me negative 5. I know right away those are my factors. So I just gave you like half the problem here. So we know it's a positive 3 and that it's a negative 8. And then just remembering, these are the roots, right? We have to set them equal to 0 to find the actual 2 x's we could use. So just to the side equals 0, just to the side equals 0. And then remember, we either solve it, so take minus 3 and you get x equals negative 3, or take plus 8 and then x equals, or you can remember it's its opposite when you do the root. So x equals, for this one, it becomes a negative 3, so we're either going to use this one, or we're going to get x equals a positive 8, just 8. We have to figure out which one is the correct one to use, and then you plug it in to find CAD. So CAD is this one right here. CAD, this is the expression you're plugging it into, the 2 times x. So I'm going to leave you here to do the rest on your own. You should be able to do the rest on your own. Figure out the correct x, plug it back in to the correct this expression, and then you should get the answer. All right, let's go to 16. We have a drawing for us, which is really nice because then we don't have to draw it. So I have the measure of ABC is x plus 66. So A, B, and C, that whole entire thing is x plus 66. So I like to do this, and then I'll just point x plus 66, the whole entire thing. And then it says, if the measure of ABD, so I'm just going to do A, B, and then D, that's this middle one here, that equals 4x minus 2. So I'm going to use that. And it says the last part, the measure of CBD. So just going through CBD, C, and then B, and then D. So that's that little part here. This one is x plus 20. Yeah, and I just put those little marks in there. Should have put it in here so you can see, just labeling. So we've been practicing this. We've been doing this for a long time. So it wants to know, find the measure of A, B, D. So let's see what we're looking for. A, B, and then D. So we are looking for finding x and then plugging it back in here to this 4 times x minus 2. This one's nice because we know there is no factoring because we don't see an x squared. We also know that if we take a piece plus another piece, we can set it equal to the total. So remember, this is our total. We can see that how I use the pink here. That's a piece and that's a piece. So when we set it up, and I'll help you start to set it up, we have 4x minus 2 plus, so that's our piece plus our other piece, x plus 20, and that equals, and so our total, which is x plus 66. And so now we have to just go through what we know when we solve multi-step equations. The first thing is, I see variables on both sides. I have to take this to the other side by adding or subtracting it. And then I can combine like terms, and I'm left with a 2-step equation. And I find my x. So once you find your x, that's not it. So once you find your x, make sure you put your x somewhere where you can see it. Put that on there for you to see. And the question, though, is to find. This question is asking you to find the measure of ABD, which is this piece right here. And we already know that ABD is this. So we have to, whatever we get for x, you plug it back in. Plug that back into the correct, pointing at it, expression, and then you will get a number. Your final number is what you grid in on the bubble sheet. So you should just get a final number and maybe circle it. All right, turning the page. We now have the next part, which is our 1.5 part of the multiple choice. Okay, so that's describing angle pair relationships. So this part, it's very important. You should have your note sheet out. This one is very important for note sheets, the 1.5 note sheet. I gave you a teacher copy. You also have your own. There's also keys that were on Google Classroom. But we want to use these so we know what they look like and if we have to draw it. Okay, so this is good to have to the side. All right, so 17. We want to draw this one out. I'm going to help you with this one. Again, we're going to draw it out. I like to have it drawn because this helps us think of things and visualize. So this one, when I read through the problem, the two angles are, when I look at it, it's giving me two angle measures. It's saying if BAD, and there's a third ray. So there's two types. We're going to be either looking at complementary or supplementary. So I want to probably do the work before I draw it out. This one's not even necessarily needed to be drawn out. So it says if the interior, if the measure of BAC is 129 and the measure of CAD is 51, what are the two angles? So I can just actually, without drawing, I can add them together and see. And then once we get that, we should know automatically because there's only one correct answer. So we won't draw this one out. It's not really needed. All right, 18. This is a pretty straightforward one. We're used to working with these for quite a few years now, and we've done a lot of these. So we know the only thing you need to know is we have a straight angle, also known as 180 degrees. A straight line is 180. So it wants us to solve for x. We know that this plus this equals 180. So just helping you a little bit set it up, 3x plus the 137 plus the other piece, 2x plus 28, that all has to equal 180. So combine like terms. And then solve the two-step equation. And this one's nice, you don't have to plug it back in. It's actually just asking for x. All right, let's look at the next one. 19, it says the measure of A and T are complementary. So I know that means they're 90 degrees. I'm just going to actually sketch 90 degrees real quick. Here we go. And it says the measure of T, so we know there's going to be two of them. I'm just going to draw something that kind of bisects it. Not quite bisects it, but just splits it. There's the measure of A. Oh, it's a capital A. I should use that. That's going to be half. And the measure of T, that's the other half. It says that the measure of T is 3 times the measure of A. So T is 3 times A. So we write that as 3A. And we'll just use A as a regular A. And we know if they're complementary, they equal 90 degrees. So we're going to set that up. So you just have your 3 times A, which is, that's we know is our T, but we're going to just use one variable, plus the A equals 90. And then it wants you to solve for what is the measure of angle A. So A all by itself. So actually, once you solve, you have the answer. You don't have to plug it back in. All right, let's go to 20, our last one. Sorry about that. So it says angle 1 and 2 form a linear pair. And this is where our note sheet comes in really handy. So if you look at linear pair, I'm going to draw this diagram. We have linear pair. We know they're 180. That's very important. And it's going to look like a straight line cut by something. So I'm just going to draw that to help me. Zoom out a little bit. So we know it's 180. We know it's going to be cut by something. So I'll put it there and then just read through it. So they form a linear pair. I got that. We'll call this one 1. We'll call this one 2. I don't know if it really matters. It says the measure of angle 1 is 73. So 70. So this one equals 73 degrees. It says find angle 2. This is what we don't know. So we're solving for this side. You should be able to set this up. It's almost exactly like 19, except for we know that when we take this, we have a piece, and it's all equal to, just remember that straight line is 180, so that's the number you're working with. And then the final answer you get, that's what you'll bubble in on your Scantron. for a gridded response. So just put your number there. And that is it for the end part of our test and for Unit 1.